can do it permanently, I need to. All right, we're pressing full screen. We're unfreezing. It's hot in here, and it's gone for some reason. That's bizarre. Why would it go away now? Okay, there it is. Oh my gosh. Oh, how did it get like so crazy hot so quickly? All right, guys. Yesterday, thanks to a certain Martin Luther Rex, we had a wonderful day off with some. Actually, the weather was fine. I'm annoyed at forecasters. I spent all of last week thinking yesterday would be snowy, and there was snow drifts for like an hour. And anyway, it just that didn't affect things that much. For like
Hours got a light.
it kind of changed the way. It kind of changed the way I thought about the weekend. All right, guys, I'm looking around at First Declension. Welcome back. So the average on this test was weirdly low. I'm not sure what happened there. Something about it being a hybrid quiz, I guess. The fact that it had vocab and a sentence. Because if people got only 5 or 6 of the vocab words, it's basically impossible to get higher than a C at that point. And a lot of you guys did really bad on the vocab. And it kind of confuses me. I will offer makeups up until Friday. Though today is probably the day, honestly, because we actually have essay today. Whereas next Friday, the essay will be that normal assembly time, okay? We are apparently going back to a normal Friday schedule with an assembly this Friday, not the crazy schedule we had the last 2 weeks where no one knew where to go for lunch and stuff. So that means that, I guess you could come to me Friday morning to take this, right? Up until 8:30, but you can't do that during the assembly, I don't think. So you would potentially only have 10 or 15 minutes after the assembly ends. Usually there's up to 10 minutes, 15 sometimes. So I would try to take it today if you did bad. A lot of people got around the 8, 9 out of 15 area, which is too low. I talk about a lot vocab is always something you got to get all those vocab points, okay? Because that is supposed to be the easier type of point from a quiz to get than translation type stuff. So, you could have done pretty bad on the translation, but gotten all the vocab words, and you still would have got a B minus, B plus or something. But y'all didn't do that. So you need to specifically take the vocabulary part again. Though I'll make you do the whole thing anyway, but we're going to go over the translation right now. So that should be really easy to kind of remember that. What else? Who got all the first declension? Hands up if you got most of the first declension.
Oh,
Ava's got pretty much all of it. Kylie's got pretty much all of it. Natalie does. I'm just going to front row. Kaylin's got it. Grace maybe back there.
I did not start on it. I did not.
Well, that's what we're doing right now. So, just looking ahead, guys, because, this week is crazy, right? As you're going to see no Latin tomorrow, you're going to come in and then we'll finally, actually, I can't believe it's true because I've been hyping this up for way too long. Did y'all do the language or the reading last week?
That's a good question.
Was it okay? So it is the language. We're taking the language on Wednesday. A lot of people might finish, but we'll still have Thursday to take it as well, so there's no need to rush. Then Friday, we will have Latin, but it'll be like a Friday Latin. It'll be 37 minutes. So we'll basically just check the homework assignment, which you can write down in your planners right now, guys. There's in the textbook this week. It's just the first 5 exercises of this chapter. Even if you didn't know what page it was specifically, 92, you would be able to find it because you flip to, past 82 where our last vocab was. You flip to chapter 11, and you got to flip a couple pages into chapter 11 to get to what are called the exercitaciones, which you can just call exercises, right? So you're going to do those first 5 for Friday. You'll have a whopping 72 hours to do that. I believe in you. Please don't mess this one up. As you guys are seeing with this quiz, you always got to be getting homework grades. Y'all did pretty good on the vocab sheet. I'll probably go down, if I get time today or on Friday, I'll read off the kids who didn't show me their vocab sheet last Friday. So I know people like Kaylin, you weren't here, so you didn't have the chance to do that, but I'm sure you probably have one. You can show me. I was being super lenient. I basically only needed you to have something written down. Connor, e-learners were exempt from this, but now that you're back, you'll do the next one. The next one, which should just be the flip side of it, won't be due until next Friday. I know I'm talking about a lot of dates, but because this week's crazy, next week we'll finally get to a normal kind of cycle again, and the end of that Friday will be your second one because that's straight up 3 points, and I need y'all to be writing down the vocab words you don't know, just because that's how you learn Latin. So yeah, we're up to 3 grades a week at this point instead of just 2. But this week, at least, it is just going to be the homework because I can't give you a quiz, and I can't check the word log a second time already. It hasn't been enough time. So, any questions on all this? There's a lot being said. I hope some things are being Good. All right, we'll check the homework on Friday. That'll be about it. Let's look at this first declension. Speaking of this last thing about next week, because I know you probably only hold so much in your head. I know I can't. But like not this Friday, but next Friday will probably be a chapter 11 vocab quiz with a section where I want you to show me all of the first declension. So we gotta have the first declension down yesterday. It feels kind of silly to be putting it on a quiz halfway through a year. But that's where we are. I need y'all to have this. It'll help you translate so much faster, at least when you're looking at first declension nouns. The nasty thing about declensions is like, yeah, there's 3 of them right now. And I mean, those are the main ones. Fourth and fifth declension words are a little rare. So it's actually not a big deal. Y'all don't get that until next year. But these declensions, knowing them better than a lot of you know them, will make homework way less kind of painful and kind of I feel like a lot of you when you're translating, it feels very mysterious. You're like, I don't know how to get this to sound like good English. Well, if you know your noun endings really well, that's one step in the right direction. So guys, A, I'm going singular to plural across each case. A, E. If you didn't at least write those down, that's kind of crazy, right? A, E to arum, that also should be easy. The dative spot, I'm okay with you being a little blurry on. It's that third AE that we hate so much. And the only reason this east isn't horrifying to me is because it shows up here and in the second declension. I'm only including that in the second declension because it's the same. And then you like skip the accusative, which should be very distinct, and you put it in the ablative plural spot too. So yeah, it seems random. It's like, okay, why? How the heck am I supposed to remember east as the ending of ablative dative plural? I don't know, but there's kind of a pattern with first and second declension at least. And they're sandwiching, like I said, the very distinct accusatives, A and AS. They don't show up anywhere else on the noun chart, just there. So you gotta love, especially the first declension accusative. And then we get that long A for ablative, right? This last little spot, because you probably should have already done this when you did this, is just a long A, and that is a distinct, that macron makes it different than the nominative A. So who thinks, well, see, this week's weird too, but who's pretty confident by next Friday on the quiz they can rattle these off real quick? Yeah, maybe. Okay, some of us, not all of us. Talk to me if you're like really freaked about that, or you're like, you know what, I can't learn any of them. Like I can't keep track of any of them. So we'll do second declension after that. Guys, learn how to do digital ink, learn how to do digital coloring, okay? Because you can do cool things like that. Also, chapter 11, yes?
What were the endings on the bucket?
They're A and AE, so it's just the nominative repeated. And yeah, like as I made clear by not even mentioning it, I don't care too much about the vocatives because they're almost universally just the nominatives. The one exception is the masculine US and second declension that becomes an E. But that's like literally the only exception, yeah? For like next Friday's quiz, a while from now. I'm doing this in a weird order, but this way I can wait a little longer to tell Kaylin to step out briefly. And we'll check that sentence, so I hope you don't put the quiz away. But chapter 11, we're going to talk about some goofy stuff today, guys, so bear with me I made a promise. I said every first day of the week we'll do some kind of myth thing. We're going to do that, but I'm doing the medicine before the sugar, Mary Poppins stuff. So chapter 11, it's all about these pronouns that are very useful, okay? We basically were able to translate Latin that kind of had these pronouns already, but they were built into verb endings, right? Like we didn't need to know that the Latin word for I was ego, because the verb would just be first person singular. But now we actually get the word ego, which Romans didn't use it a ton, but if they wanted to emphasize, like I, blah, 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 verb something, then they would whip out ego instead of just conjugating the verb. So anyway, these are the first person ones. There's basically 3 different flavors of these pronouns. After ego, they become im-based. Meus is an adjective we already basically had this whole time. Mihi, that kind of sticks out, to me. And then me could be accusative or ablative. And then on the plural side, it's we versus us. When we becomes an object, it's actually going to be us. So nobis can be ablative or dative plural, either to us or us plus like a preposition. Whereas nos, depending on if it's the subject or the direct object, will be us. I know you're probably like, what? Like, are you, like, am I supposed to like be comfortable with all of this? This is what chapter 11 is about. So it's a bit more than chapter 10. Chapter 10, we really just got to like chill out and kind of like talk about fourth conjugation, which in a way was just reviewing third conjugation I already had. But this is first, this is chapter 11. These are personal pronouns, a little more depth. The second person pronouns, they all start with T. To is the word we didn't have. We didn't need it because we would just make verbs second person singular. But in case you want to say you in Latin, it's to. All right, Chewis, we had for a while your Tibby instead of Miki is to you, and then Tay Tay could be accusative or Ella, just like May May. And then all of these are basically identical to the first plural ones, we and us, except with a V. So I don't think we'll see these too much, honestly. But know that it could be you all or y'all. And then last but not least are these third person personal pronouns. These will probably, honestly, I don't want to say they'll show up the most. But they're like kind of the most useful, because remember we always like had dropped, not always, but we often had dropped third person pronouns and we would use he or she ourselves, we would supply it. Now we do actually have the words for it. One of them looks like an English verb, meaning is, right? But we can say is, maybe. They're weird. We'll talk more about them. They're nasty. I want you to know in a vocabulary capacity, not so much a like knowing the whole pronoun capacity. Ayam is him and ayam is her direct objects. So there's certain ones we want to pick out of here and just know them on a vocabulary level. Like ayas. Anytime you see ayas from now, it's gonna be his or her, and it's genitive. And you don't need to like. I don't want you to always have to think like, oh, ayam. Let's see, that's the accusative singular masculine of third person personal pronouns. No, that's asking a lot. I want you to kind of know the ones that are really popular, like the accusative. The genitives are really popular. A-E is really weird and it's hard to remember, and it looks like something to say, not plural, but it could be just to him or her dative for all three genders. So dative and genitive, they're the same for all three genders, which is what happens for Hick and Illa for some reason too. I don't know why pronouns are like, you know what, guys, we're awful, us pronouns, but we're all going to have consistent genitives and datives for all of our genders to give these poor futuristic kids from the future a break. You know, ancient Romans knew. They knew. They said, oh, the language we speak every day, second nature, 2,000 years from now, that's going to be like one of the harder classes that some like American kids in the New World, which hasn't even been discovered by Europeans yet, are going to have to be taking. Kind of crazy. All right, real quick, if I could have Keelan, go get some water very leisurely. You can just stroll around. You can drop in on other classes. You can probably go home or go to Safeway or McDonald's briefly and come back like you're a college student. Okay, we'll run through these. Thank you. We won't forget to get you back. All right, guys. So on the quiz, it was time flies, the hours fly, old age comes, and then something that was really common. Well, this is what the right answer is. But it, as an old age, will not conquer me, non-may, right? So people mixed up winka winker up to conquer with winio winire to come. And I don't really blame you, right? They both start with a V. And then the sentence, it's like, because we did have one verb twice, Yu-Gi-Oh! To flee, but then, so probably people thought, oh, then we have another verb twice, but it's actually two separate verbs. Yeah?
I put take on
You put what?
I put take on mark. Doesn't take the same thing as conquer though?
No, you think of copy of copper. A take for Winka Winker is a pretty big stretch. I mean, I guess you could take like a castle, like I took the castle, meaning you like conquered it. But I probably didn't even take off for that. I probably just like marked it. So yeah, this one wasn't too bad. The whole thing was Winkit was third singular future, right? Again, now that chapter 10 is over, that's what the whole chapter was. Is that these newer verbs that are third conjugation, like figura figura, or winka winkera, or venio venire, fourth conjugation. When these e's show up, we're somehow supposed to be so detail oriented and so on top of our vocabulary that we say, oh, future tense. That is asking a lot. It's kind of hard, but that's what the whole chapter was. So, and then there was this one. That one poet wrote or was writing many poems, many direct objects about the happy brother object of today. What did I ask about here? The tense of this, right? So that's imperfect past. I accept past. I don't like when you say just past. I like past imperfect or imperfect past or whatever. But this was third singular imperfect, whereas the verb at the end of this one was future. So that's kind of all I was looking for, is that you are able to like see the tense of a verb. This one should have been really easy, whereas this one I was like, well, that was actually like legitimately tricky. Whereas this one, if you don't know how to spot the imperfect past tense at this point, try to come to essay or tutoring and talk to me about it. Any questions about these? And I have the vocab real quick. I think most of you guys know that this is to hear, like audio. Everyone was getting vivo mixed up with via. I did not even, that wasn't me trying to be tricky and like, I was like, oh, they're going to mix up these two. But like, I get why it happened. Viva vira is to live. We didn't really see it in translations. Whereas via vi is road or path. Think of how you use the word via in English. Like, oh, I'm gonna call my friend via my cell phone. That example, but it means by way of, blah blah blah. So via, and for another thing, this is a noun. This should kind of clearly look like a noun, whereas this is a verb. I wish I wrote all four principal parts. Maybe that would help a little more. Whom, with, Yu-Gi-Oh to flee, Inweo to come upon, or find, not to come. Video is to come. Pico to speak, like dictate. Timora spear. Like I said, via path. I mean, keep your friendship. A lot of people got that right. Tapio capra to capture. All right, the bonus is the wife of Neptune is Amphitrite, and Persephone is the daughter of Demeter. And what was the third one? Someone
There
get
was no. Oh wait.
Oh yeah, well, that one was really hard. I don't think anyone knew it. Eos was EOS. All right, let's look at one or two sentences, and then we'll talk about mythology. Honestly, guys, Harry Potter. I'm not lying. We're talking about Harry Potter a little. Yes. Yes. Or is Maddie doing that? Someone just open the door and get Caitlin. Maddie, open the door. You're good. Okay. And yeah, Caitlin, if you want to take that during essay today, that would be the best time. All right, guys. This is just to help you with your homework, which we're all going to do, right? We might even have time to get a class to start on it. It's I'll write it on the board. I haven't yet, I guess, but what was it, page 92, 135, 93? So let's just look at an example of sentences where I just was throwing. Chapter 11, exercises, page 93. Do Friday. No quiz. Don't stay tuned. That was last week. I thought we're doing the test then. Anyway, let's do these examples, and we'll talk about some mythology stuff. So, ego, eum, ex, eum, ad Romam, vocat. Okay, I messed this one up slightly because I see ego there, and I'm like, oh, so the subject's going to be I. I don't even have to look at my verb ending. But then I see I actually didn't reflect that in the verb itself. So now it's fixed. I'll have to change it again. But so this is useless. We don't really need to see ego here, but I'm just showing you might see it in a sentence, and it's gonna mean that I is your subject, but it doesn't actually. You would know that anyway. Once you look at your verb and you know that's for singular, you would know the subject's I anyway, so it'll be redundant, but that's fine. So I do what? What does vocabulary mean? You want to? It's been a while since I've seen it. I feel like you have to call. Good. I call, and then what direct objects do we call, Connor? Good, very good, awesome. So even though he is getting back into the groove in person, he already, I guess, remembered what I said, that am and aeon here are accusative singulars. Those are the third person personal pronouns accusatives that I was warning you about are very common. We're going to see those, the genitives, and the datives more than anything else. Maybe abo too, I guess. But anyway, it's like, yeah, I call him and her to Rome. Okay, let me switch the voco back real quick. So him, her, and Rome are actually all accusative, but only him and her are direct objects, because Rome here is an accusative object of ad. Ad takes an accusative here. I didn't change the colors or anything, but am is supposed to be red, aeon is supposed to be red. Whereas Rome, as you can see, is this rustier red that I use for accusative objects. Now nos, vocatus here. Vos is going to mean y'all. It could be a direct object, but oh look, our verb is telling us it is going to be the subject because it's second plural. We don't even need the vos to know that y'all is the subject when we look at the end of this verb. You all call nos. What do y'all think? You all call we. Who do you call we?
Us.
Yeah, so here nos is going to be us. That's tricky. Vos and nos can be nominative subjects, right? Or they can be accusative direct objects. Whereas y'all will not change if y'all is the subject. Y'all are the subject of the person. I teach y'all. Y'all didn't change at all there, though it did change its function. Final warning to the Lord in front of you. It didn't change its how it sounds at all. We're not explaining that word like we do other words. Let's have a Laura move in front of Antonio right now.
Excuse me?
Yes?
Can I have Connor to the office?
Yes.
Thank you.
And then, but nos actually will change in the English. In the Latin, just like those, it's not. But if it's a subject of the sentence, which you can confirm by looking at the verb ending, basically, then it's we are the subject of the sentence. Wherever it's a direct object, you teach us. It'll be us. So be careful about that. All of that was just to say nos can either be we or us. Here it has to be us because it's not the subject. And this was vocamus. then it'd probably be we call y'all. But that's not what it is. The verb is second plural, so the verb still is dictating a lot. Just because we have these pronouns now doesn't mean you're not going to be looking at the verb ending and getting like most of your information out of that. Is at ea may vacant. Anyone? What would that be? Anyone at all? Anyone? I'll give you a bit of time while I make some changes. All right. All right. Remember, e-learning kids, if you're hearing this, which hopefully at some point you are, if not live right now, there actually won't be streaming tomorrow and Thursday. I know I goofed hard last week, so you're probably like, does he even know at this point? Like, is he right this time? I am actually right this time, I think. So, yeah, because a lot of people, I think, didn't come to last Thursday's class, so they were like, well, he said for 2 days straight that it was testing. So this will be, we haven't seen this before. But it'd be like he and her. That's he and her. They're unfortunate words, right? They look like typos, basically. They don't even look like real Latin words. Is et ea. I don't even like pronouncing them. They're a bummer. But it's just like he and her call me. So we will still see me or may as me. And here it's accusative may, but it could be allelative may. Okay, Myth Monday. So when you're doing your homework and essay today, hopefully, try to remember the last 5 minutes of class. Everything I was saying in the last 5 minutes. And Maddie, you're dribbling hard. As long as you don't leave any on the floor, I'm not that bad. Okay. I'm pretty confident. Okay. Myth Monday, it's actually Tuesday, guys. I've made a promise, even during a 2-day week, but it's essentially a 2-day week, to talk about not just Latin at the beginning of class on the first day of a week. Okay, because it just makes sense, right? I mean, that was hard. We just talked about Latin for like a solid 15 minutes. It was hard. I like worked up a sweat. But let's talk about some mythological stuff and some reception stuff. Right, I talked about reception studies last week, how on college campuses they're letting classics students write about video games and heavy metal music and stuff because it just happens to be kind of related to the classical world a little bit. So we get to as well. But anyway, it came up yesterday. We were talking about the Olympians, or I was. And, we said Jupiter is married to Juno. Pluto, we talked about his wife, Persephone, who is the daughter of Demeter, Ceres here. And we know, or we talked about last week, Poseidon Neptune is married to the sea nymph goddess lady, kind of a minor goddess, Amphitrite or Amphitrite. But then I was like, well, who are Demeter and Hestia married to? Just because they're the minor Olympian 6 people doesn't mean that we shouldn't know more about them, right? But yeah, these are the 6 siblings that are the children of Saturn / Cronus. Jupiter Zeus was the youngest one. He had to be the one to actually grow up and use a sickle to release his siblings from the bowels of his father's stomach, and then banished Saturn and kind of led the Olympians against the Titans so that they became the kind of supreme generation of God. But anyway, these are the 6, right? And yeah, if you look at them, you're like, these 2 we don't really talk too much about, right? Everyone knows these 3 guys. They had to split up the kind of reality as it stands in the 3 chunks: the heavens and skies, the below Earth, and then he's kind of water and earth. So I think he actually kind of has the best. But then yeah, the sisters here, they're cool too. We talked about Demeter a little bit last week. Who's Demeter? What's her deal again? Anyone?
She's the goddess of no.
I don't know if she is. That's what I was wondering, who is she married to? It turns out, I guess, like nobody. But then it sounds like y'all can't remember who she's a goddess of. I don't blame you. So she's like an agricultural goddess. She's a goddess of agriculture and the harvest. And that's why when her daughter Persephone gets kidnapped and goes to the underworld, she gets really upset. That's why things get wintry, and like that's when the earth kind of dies briefly for a few months. And we'll talk more about that. And then also Hestia Vesta, who she's the goddess of. Who decided that the trident should look like a fork? I don't know, but I assume it's like a primitive fishing tool, and that's what it's a reference to. Because you also see it in the nautical themed gladiator, who I can't even, the Murmillo, is that his name? Who has the net, the Retiarius, who has the net and the trident. I don't know how much they were used, but if you were aboard a fishing vessel, maybe that was something just in case like a fish was about to like wriggle out of a net and you could stick it or something. I don't know, because you also see things like that on a farm when people are like doing things to hay, right? There's like anyway. So I'm not totally sure, but I think it was just like a nautical reference to a tool that was actually used, huh? Yeah, pitchfork. Right, the pitchfork that you imagine in like a mob of people who are about to like kill Frankenstein. No, I don't think they're not meant for that. I think they're literally you stack hay with it because it's like it's just a scoop for hay basically when a farmer is. Yeah, or if you're like chasing Frankenstein and you're like an angry villager. That, but so it's like nautical or it's agricultural. In this case, it's nautical because yeah, we don't see Demeter Ceres holding one. Like she's like, I'm a farmer lady. What?
And so Hestia is the goddess of the heart.
Yes, Hestia / Vesta is the Roman name. Which oops, I flipped. It should be this way. Since I'm putting Roman first, except for her. She is the goddess of the hearth or the household. So whereas she's like the harvest of crops every fall, she would be the lady that you are thankful for or like worshiping when you bring that grain back home and then actually like have a meal and potentially religious. Greco-Roman families would have a lot of like different festivals inside of their house, and so she kind of lords over any kind of private domestic religious festivals or observances you might have. Yes.
Aren't all the gods related?
Yeah, so these are all siblings, and like yeah, we talked about like it's really weird that they're married, they're siblings, but yeah, these are all right. But these are all brothers and sisters. But you know, it's like kind of different for gods. Like these are their human forms according to sculptors, but they're not really supposed to even have human forms. They're just like ideas a lot of like most of the time. Though I guess in myth they do seem to be applied to be taking on these humanoid forms. Yes.
If they're all like twin brothers, then and Zeus and Hera are married.
Yeah, I mean, yes. I'm sure we talked about this before. But guys, they're like gods, so we don't have to like ooh and awe like it's like crazy. This is something that like drunken shepherds 3,000 years ago dreamt up by looking at the stars. Like it doesn't really say anything about Greek culture that some of their gods were later. That's just like I think a limitation of creativity. Where you're like, well, if there are people greater than us, they probably live in the sky and they're probably like huge and powerful. And if there was just a few at the beginning, then that means that they would have had to like be married even if they're related or whatever. Because like how else? It was just people trying to think through like how would this have happened, right? Like and we know like cavemen and women, it wasn't the case where it was just like one dude and one woman at any point. It was just like it's like a whole tribes of Cro-Magnons and Neanderthals and Homo sapiens, and so there wasn't the need for what Jupiter has to do. I guess I don't know. They're not like real siblings. They're like fake siblings. What? Huh?
Who's the oldest god?
Who's the oldest god? It would be Uranus and Gaia, or Uranus and Gaia, heaven and earth, basically, right, Miss Fisher? Heaven and earth. They give birth to the Titans. Cronus and Rhea, the Titans give birth to the Olympians, and whereas this is the initial generation of the Olympians, their children, especially a lot of Zeus, like Mercury, Apollo, Athena, Diana, Bacchus, a lot of those younger, and the Cupid, those younger ones, they're like the younger Olympians, but they're still part of the same generation, which is the third generation of gods after the Titans, and the Titans come after, we don't really have a great term for it, but the primordial gods, the ones like heaven and earth and darkness and love. These really early primordial, like elemental gods that like make up reality as it is.
Aren't there like tons of demigods?
Yeah, and then demigods is not a good technical term. It's kind of a recent term that's come about, usually in like fantasy worlds that are inspired by Greco-Roman stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of like the heroes. The heroes we know, like Heracles and Perseus and stuff like that, and Achilles. They are usually when human blood is intermingling with that of these deities. So these Olympian gods, their domains or dominions are usually more specific and have to do with human culture, like agriculture or the hearth. Whereas earlier gods before them, the primordials and some of the Titans, stand in for much larger ideas like darkness itself, or the idea of love, or the earth and literally the heavens. Those are like literal ideas. Like everything up there is Uranus, everything down here is Gaia. And then these guys are in charge of like kind of a smaller thing. Like, oh, lightning? Okay, that's like one scientific phenomenon that occurs in the heavens. Like that's actually relatively minor.
Hera and Zeus get in fights about why there's demigods. lots of them.
Well, yeah, and she like fully knows. Almost in every, I don't think there's a myth where they're actually a happy couple. Okay, like Zeus's primary characteristic is that he, he kind of falls in love with various human women and is constantly kind of like leading to the birth of these demigods, aka heroes and minor gods. And yeah, she hates it. She's the goddess of marriage, but she's married to the king of the gods, who is supposed to sometimes be like the god of justice, even, but he's like a slime ball. Yes, Macy?
Is Maui a demigod?
Maui?
Yeah, from the one.
Oh,
Is he like a real thing?
no, the Chinese mythology?
Chinese?
I wouldn't know it. If I teach the mythology class next year, hopefully I would know it by then. But right now, I just know Greco-Roman stuff with a hint of Egyptian and Norse. I wouldn't know. There's really good YouTube videos, deep dives on people exploring how accurate and authentic both the Mulan movies are. The original 90s one. And stop, John. We get it. That was a good bit, but it's really loud. But yeah, there's videos on YouTube where this lady walks through Mulan and talks about how usually inaccurate it is. There's a couple of things that are accurate, but a lot of it is like kind of like made up gobbledygook. Yes? We are annoying today. What? Huh?
My favorite mythology is Egyptian. It's my favorite thing mythology to talk about. And I think just like the movie, they have I forget their names. I think one of them is it's been a while.
That sounds right. Yeah.
So like one of them is the Earth, and he's like a snake guy, and his head is like a really long snake. And then like there's this other girl, and she's the stars and stuff, and they're like married, but the girl's dad is like, hey, no, I don't like that. So he's the heir or the spy, so he has to be between them.
Yeah, my favorite Egyptian story is when Osiris gets like torn to shreds and Isis, his wife, has to wander the earth looking for little pieces of her husband to put him back together. Because that's like the science of Egyptian gods. We can maybe talk more about Egyptian gods because yeah, they're fascinating. If we all ever take a mythology class that maybe starts next year for the 10th and 11th graders, we'll get more into Eastern stuff because yeah, there's way more like animalistic gods in Egyptian and South American and Asian mythologies. Most of these people, they have like an animal representation, but they usually are never animalistic in the way that some other gods are. We find in this religion and in Norse mythology, they seem a little more humanoid, whereas say Egyptian gods and certain Asian mythologies and folklores feature like very like animalistic, like here's a tiger god and here's like a dragon god and stuff. But we're running out of time. Anyway, Demeter goes way back, and I think it's kind of interesting. She goes back to the Bronze Age, meaning like before that timeline starts around 1200 when the Trojan War would have happened. She goes way back, and she was popular in Turkey, more popular in Turkey, which is east of Greece, than Greece itself. But eventually she shows up in this really early language archaeologists call Linear A, that like it was a Cretan language or Minoan language that came before the Greek alphabet. It was like they were kind of way ahead of their time. She seems to be depicted as unwed, so that answers my initial question that she didn't seem to have a husband. And she, sometimes important to a mystery cult. So this mystery cult in Greece that was all about the afterlife and learning about the secrets of the afterlife, centered around the story with Demeter and Persephone, because Persephone went down to the underworld for 3 months, and then she came back up, and it's a cycle for them. And so Greek people who are really religious, like more religious than normal Greek people, were sometimes in this cult called the mystery cult of the Eleusinian Mysteries, and they would like try to like find out, discover these passages and these rites that would help them like achieve immortality, blah blah blah. But anyway, last thing about her is that she makes it over to Rome. These are the same notes, but this is different. She makes it to Rome in the 3rd century. Up to that point, they didn't really care about Demeter too much. Her Roman equivalent is Ceres, but Ceres is not a huge deal. So this weird thing happens where she gets like a second Roman equivalent known as Cybele. And Cybele is this other goddess who we think maybe was the same as Demeter for the people in Turkey back during the Bronze Age. But, and this is crazy, I wish I had a picture of it. Literally, apparently, like this is true, there was a black meteorite stone that landed somewhere in Turkey and made its way to a temple of Cybele back in the Bronze Age. Or I'm sorry, yeah. And then Rome, at some point, they were losing against the Carthaginians. They're like, we need help. We need like a new goddess or something. We need to like inject some new like divine magic into Rome. And so they sent a convoy of people to sail around Greece to get to Turkey and take this black meteorite stone out of the temple. And to them, it was like, this is a goddess. This is literally Cybele. It's not just a representation of her. It is the goddess. We need to put her on a boat, bring her back to Rome, and start a new cult for her worship, and make a temple for her. And they did that. And then they also happened to beat the Carthaginians sometime later. Was it because Cybele / another version of Demeter blessed them? No, but that's how they believed it. And I mean, it's kind of cool to think something comes from space. It's a rock from space. Why wouldn't that be a goddess? That's literally a goddess, and that it came from space. Now, is it sentient? No, it's a rock. But it's kind of like, I can say it's literally a goddess. It's not really. Connor?
I was gonna ask, what's the earliest ever mention of a god like
Like the earliest mention? That's like a really fascinating question. I know about the ones that are occurring like over 3,000 years ago during this vacuum of time, when people are starting to get pretty good at agriculture. They're starting to set up little kingdoms and monarchies and stuff. That's when I know about the earliest gods. But you got to think, as soon as people realized that the sun made food grow out of the ground and that water fed the plants that became food, there had to be sun and water gods, right? Like almost as soon as that happened, they had to think, that's really crazy. Why would that happen? Why does the bright fireball make the little tiny seed turn into bananas for my stomach? That has to be some like, kind of magical stuff going on. So I should look into that, Connor, because that's actually a fascinating. I mean, I would guess the Egyptians were doing things 5,000 years ago, and probably before that even. Probably like really early caveman people kind of had an idea of like sky things, fire, sunball, god. Yeah.
I think, from what I know, the earliest mythology that I know was Chinese. Because they became before like Japanese and Egyptian, and they were like 8,000 years ago.
That's true.
Really, really like old mythology, and they somehow were ahead of every mythology. You know, they were mythology, every other culture, even though they were too long. Also, just one quick thing, will be my last thing. In Egyptian mythology, I love the star named Sebek. He has an alligator.
The alligator head. Yeah.
And he rules the freaking river.
Yeah, like Roman,
I'm
like
sure it's not.
people like Sobek make me realize Romans could have used a couple more gods who just had like alligator heads or like lion heads or something. I think that would have been kind of cool. But anyway, yeah. So Chinese culture is really advanced early on. But if you go back to like the earliest, it's supposed to be the people in the Tigris Euphrates River area, which is like modern day Iraq. And so those would have been the first people to have a chance to think of a god. But then yeah, things spread out to like Egypt and China from there. Egypt and China kind of like are doing all kinds of amazing things way before Greece does. I love how Grace and all of them have basically had a conversation through this whole class. It's made in a very quiet and focused environment. Cue sarcastic comment from Miss Fisher. But anybody else have a thing? Here's some other agricultural deities, because there's a ton, guys. This is not even remotely all of them. But there's a specific Jupiter, who's kind of the Jupiter of the environment, kind of. Jupiter Tellus. This was a thing where you have like a god and then a hyphen and like a specific version of that god. But anyway, so there's like a minor version of Jupiter. Flora, who's this goddess of spring and flowers. Flora literally means flower in Latin. Sylvanus is this old man spirit who's kind of like a minor deity of the woods around Italy. Pennsylvania, this comes from the Latin word silvus. Pennsylvania just means Penn's forest, like this guy William Penn's forest. Pennsylvania, Sylvanus. Tutalina, goddess of watching over stored grain. That's a cool god. Gaia, who is literally Mother Earth. She did not matter to the Romans really, but she was in Greek mythology. Aprilis, we're not really sure. But when you look at the month April, and it's one of the months in the calendar where we're actually not sure what Roman god it's referring back to. All the other, starting with September, it's just numbers. But before September, it's like a lot of god names, like March is Martius from Mars. But April, we don't really know. Ovid thinks it could be another name for Aphrodite, like an agriculture-specific Aphrodite. This is Magna Mater, Great Mother. And she is another name for Demeter. So like I said, Demeter kind of splits off into we got Magna Mater, we got Cybele, and we got Ceres, but they all kind of relate back to this really early god. Yes? That's just my current mascot. Okay, guys, I don't know if any of y'all really care about Harry Potter, and I want to make a statement that the views of LTA and Mr. Calamello are not reflected in the works of J.K. Rowling. Okay, this is inappropriate. Honestly, Harry Potter, you shouldn't read it until you're in your 20s. Really? It is very scary. There's a lot of spooky things that happen. But because it's I know I'm kind of joking, but I'm not saying you need to be invested in Harry Potter to care about what I'm about to go through. But I just looked at like all the spells, pretty much all the spells have some kind of relation, Maddie Fisher, to a Latin word. And so we can look at the spell names and just kind of like think about Latin a little bit. So it's kind of interesting in a way. Yes? Yes. Yeah. What's that, Macy? Please stop talking. Please. We beg of you.
I look over there. I'm not talking.
You're not talking? Okay. Yeah, I guess I've lost my mind. What? Macy.
I'm literally wearing Harry Potter socks.
Nice. Nice. Okay. What? Yes, you can.
Okay, sorry. I didn't know if you were answering me or not.
Okay. Accio is a summoning spell. Y'all should probably just do this thing sometimes. I think it's like fine, honestly. Don't do it for other teachers.
Summoning jutsu.
Oh, is this a summoning? What? No, this isn't Naruto. So Accio, I think they probably say Accio in the book, but it's more of an Italian pronunciation. But this is just literally a Latin word in the, well, you tell me what person and number is Accio. That was so mean to curse. I just now feel bad for that. Anyone, what person and number is Accio here? It's literally just a Latin verb. That's all it is. Connor?
Isn't it I?
Yeah, well, the subject is I because it's what person and number, Nathan? Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah, so it literally, and this is what the verb means, it means to send for, to summon, or call or fetch. So this literally just means I summon. Like, that's, when you're saying this, you're saying in Latin, not like a wizard language. You're saying like I summon or I call for. It's supposed to make something float towards you, I think, right? Like it's something that's like far across the room. You can get it to move towards you, as portrayed in this famous scene when he's fighting probably Gandalf the Wise, or maybe Bulbasaur, whoever it is. And I think it's in the 4th book actually. And he's fighting against a dude. And there's like a dragon in the background. He has to like he like dropped something maybe. I don't know. He dropped some gillyweed. We also have Avada Kedavra, and this is straight up scary, guys. There isn't actually any Latin in this other than this word. I looked at the etymology of the first one and could not find anything. But this is the word now used when you're like in medical school. And yeah. Is it? Oh, we can turn it up. I never know if it's full. Oh wow, okay.
Killing spell.
This one is just another first-person singular Latin word. This one is a first-person singular Latin word with patronum here, which would be what case? What case would that be? Yeah.
I think second declension.
Is it actually holy?
Yeah.
That was so rude. I don't care. Who calls it like? Oh my gosh. Okay. This would be an accusative direct object. So this literally means I expect. They changed the spelling a little bit for some reason. A Patronus, which is a protector or patron. This is when they get their little Pokemon that's specific to them that comes out of their wand. And it turns out Harry has like a stag, and Albus has like an owl. Oh my gosh, I'm so shook from that. Hermione has an otter. Luna Lovegold, who cares? She's a minor character. Minerva has like a cat. I don't know. All right, Expelliarmus, this is nonsense. I thought this was going to be a first-person plural verb that means like we do something. This is a disarming spell. It doesn't relate, as far as I can tell, maybe to nothing, or as in terms of what it relates to. There is a Latin word pello that means to strike, but that seems like a stretch. So I guess maybe that's the only thing I can think of. Evanesco, again, it's a first-person singular verb that means I vanish. Yeah, okay. Which weird trope in fantasy books and worlds that disappearing is so important. Like in Lord of the Rings, the Ring of Power, like the most powerful ring in the world makes you disappear. When also, and then in Harry Potter, you find out the Cloak of Invisibility turns out to be one of the 3 like Grindelwald like relics, which you can tell she like thought of later. Because like Dobby here can do like a basic vanishing spell. It's not a big deal. So why would a cloak that makes you invisible be like one of the most? Anyway, have y'all read the last books? She obviously thought of that a little later. Spoiler. Crucio Cruciatus, the killing spell. Again, this is just a first-person singular verb. Most of them are, and it just means I torture. I torture. And then, like I said, the first word here, I tried. I could not find anything. It was nonsense. But cadaver is like the technical term for a dead body that like medical students use to learn how to do things. Imperio, this is kind of nonsense. It's basically just the noun imperium, which means command, in the ablative or dative for some reason. Okay, like they just changed the ending a little bit. So it's just kind of like saying command, or like with a command, maybe if it's ablative or something. Yeah. Why did I put para ferrare? That's on the last slide. Leva corpus, that's when you make someone float.
What the heck?
And
is
like
that?
an old Harry Potter
That
video
looks like
game.
that looks like the PS2 Harry Potter.
There probably is. Yeah, I played the first Harry Potter on PC. It was fun. And this just means like it comes from the adjective levis leva, which means light, and then corpus corporis, which is body. Lumos here, Maddie Fisher's continue. Like, what is what she's saying interesting, Grace and Devin? Are y'all like dying to
It was
hear?
about this.
But like, why not share it with the whole class then? Like, truly, guys. Lumos here. Yeah, I guess so. It's from lumen luminous, which is a third declension. This should be an I right here. Third declension noun that means light. And they kind of put it. Well, what did they make it look like? They made it look like it's not third declension, but that it's maybe kind of like second declension accusative plural. Actually, that os ending. So again, this is what I call kind of fake Latin. Not fake in a bad way. It's just like it's not quite in the Latin grammar itself. It's like a hybrid of a Latin word with like random grammar, like a random ending that doesn't actually fit. But that's fine. That's cool. But a lot of it is like straight up Latin. Priori incantato is basically straight up Latin. Priori is an adverb that means former. We use it sometimes in English, or like it's in like legal language. It shows up, like lawyers will use it. But incanto and cantare is to sing, specifically like maybe sing some kind of spell. So this is a spell you say this, and whatever the last spell that was performed near you is performed again. So it's a way just to repeat a spell. And so I just randomly put up all the original covers because these are wildly iconic covers. I know they've since put out different covers, but these are so iconic.
I've actually never seen the original Goblet of Fire. I've always seen it different.
This one always seemed weird to me because I felt like the artist's style kind of changed for this one. Like, look how simple his head is. It's just like a stupid circle here. And then now his head is kind of like, it looks kind of like an actual human. It's so stylized. Kind of weird, though. Kind of weird. Whoever this artist is went back to monochromatic, not back to, but these two books, she was like, you know what? It's just blue, and then it's just green, and that's it. And this one's red. Whereas these are like very colorful. I don't like this cover. This one's lame. But I remember I went to the midnight release of this book, and it was a big deal. Barnes & Noble's having a party. Everyone knows the third book's the best. Second book and movie is the worst. Clearly. And these are just so dark, I guess they're cool if you're the right age, but you tried to read them when you were 10. It's too scary. All right, here's Wingardium Leviosa. Wingardium is nonsense. That doesn't. Right. This is. I made sure to get both. This is her schooling and trashing Ron, and then this is the next side where she's like, "This is how you do it," like Wingardium Leviosa, and she does it right. Right. But yeah, this scene specifically, I don't know if this is in the book, but it makes it clear that actually like pronunciation is like very important, I guess. But yeah, again, I dictionaried Wingardium. I couldn't find it anywhere. The word wing, obviously it's like a play on wing. That is not Latinate. It doesn't go back to any Latin roots. It's like more of a Germanic or like Norse kind of thing. So, but then Leviosa, it means like lighter basically. We'll learn about comparative adjectives probably next fall. That's when something isn't just like lightweight or something, it's lighter. So this is like a lighter wing, guardium. Yes?
But you got the light from before for like the Lumos or whatever, but then you got this light. How can you tell the difference in Latin?
This isn't oh, I see what you're saying. Well, that's a good question, but that's just English's own failing. Because yeah, lumen, a light, like a light bulb light versus something being lightweight. That's just an issue as far as I know, that it's just in English, not Latin. Latin, that is levis, an adjective for lightweight, versus light, meaning like clarus would be bright, or lumen is like an actual light. And apparently you say, when you have the lumen thing going, you say nox to make it go out to turn dark, and nox means night. So that's cool, I guess. But yeah, guys, that's it. Oh, and then some of the names. Here's lupin, and that's from lupus, lupi, which is a second declension word that means wolf. Can anybody think of other names? There's Luna Love, but Luna means moon. Anyone? Ron means idiots in Latin. No, I don't know what Ron means. That's all I got, though, guys. Y'all don't have enough time to work on homework. Sorry if I seem grumpy, and I'm sorry it was cold, but I maintain that was pretty good. What? Yeah, honestly, yeah. Well, probably just Venus, like Ron was, right? I don't know if that name means anything though, but yeah, like I hadn't thought of that, but yeah, huh. Remus, interesting.
Other people do.
Yes, I do. Every single day.
Change it from your house.
Oh, what's up, Chris? Ending the video. Anyway, have a good day. I'll upload this soon.